Yeah, I grew up in a musical family. My father was one of the first pop idols in the 50s, late 50s. And he met my mum, who was a singer dancer, and they got married when they were 20 and had me. So I grew up with them really during the 60s. I was born in 1960. And I grew up through an incredible decade of pop music and the tail end of rock and roll. And this was being played all the time in our home. And we lived in a fairly small home. And my father was always playing guitar and always singing and always writing songs. So this was normal for me. This connection with music was very strong from a really young age, and I loved it. And it's one of my most vivid memories of being a child, is sitting and listening to the radio, hearing the Beatles singing Strawberry Fields Forever, or Gene Pitney singing 24 Hours from Tulsa. There's many vivid memories, and they're all really to do with music. Well, I'd been gunning to be a pop star from as long as I could remember. So from being a teenager, I was very fortunate because I had a lot of experience in things like live performance. I used to go and do backing vocals for my dad during his rock and roll shows. These weren't very glamorous affairs. I mean, these were like working men's clubs up and down the country. It wasn't exactly high glamour and hanging out with famous people. It was really like schlepping for miles in a car and being in a smoky environment, and you know, sometimes there'd be a lot of people, sometimes there wouldn't be that many people. There was nothing, it wasn't a glamorous thing. So for me, it was never about getting into it for the glamour. So when I got my contract, the first thing I was really pleased about was the fact that I had a job, that I had my independence, and that I was going to be able to earn money doing the thing I love more than anything. Yeah, I was very lucky. Yeah, I mean, I was very, excuse me, I was very fortunate. I was fortunate because I'd already experienced fame through my father, and he had a very sort of down-to-earth approach to fame. For him, it was a tool that he took out of the box, he used it, and then he put it back again. And this is the way I was brought up. And also he always felt very humble that he was able to make a living in that way when a lot of his friends were having to slog away many times doing jobs they didn't like that much. So he was always very grateful that he was able to pay the bills doing something that he loved so much, when there were people having to go down the mines or sweep streets. So he was humble about that, and I think it helped me to get fame into perspective very quickly when it happened to me when I was 20. That's the million-dollar question. You know, you can have what is perceived as a great label. You can even have someone who's perceived as a really promising or great artist even, and the same with a great song. And somehow the dots don't join up and the end result is a bit flat. You can have a record company that's kind of perceived to be all right, and an artist that's kind of okay, and a song that's okay, and the whole thing goes, wow! It's like, what's that? So there is, it's very hard to know how to join up the dots with artists and record companies. A lot of this is, you know, that elusive concept of timing. Of course, it's better if you've got a record company that think you're great, and of course it's better if you are great and you've got some great ideas. but there's no equation that guarantees a success, and that's where the magic comes in, and that is the holy grail of the music industry, and that's the spark, the magic that makes it so irresistible. And when it all comes together in a perfect storm and it works, everyone gets so excited, and you can understand why, because it's really elusive, this equation. We're all still trying to work it out, and sometimes we get it right, and then even when we get it right, we don't know what we got right altogether. I love it. It's a conundrum. Well, it's amazing how many different routes there are into this world of music, and mine was no exception. It had its own very particular characteristics. And of course, the big factor was the fact that I'd already been brought up around fame and music, and a songwriter and a great singer, and in my own house. And sorry, I've lost my thread. Ask me that question again.
No problem.
Yeah.
Do you have a management now?
That's correct. Okay. Yeah. So what happened was, when my career began, I was in a situation where my family were very involved, because I wasn't yet 20 years old. I was still living at home. My brother, who was a year younger than me, had started writing these great songs like Kids in America. And we certainly were in a position where we needed someone who had a bit of experience of the business aspects to help guide those initial contracts that were signed. But of course, these days, you have to have a lawyer anyway, so it's not the end of the world if you don't find someone who'll trail along with you and fight your corner. It really helps if you do. But I did. I had my parents, and we had a close-knit situation. We had some help that was invaluable from outside too. So at that point, management was really about, I think, dotting T's and crossing T's and dotting I's. It wasn't about sitting down and telling me what to do. It was really just about facilitating my movement from place to place. But no one told me how to dye my hair or cut my hair, or what clothes to wear, or what things to say, or what not to say or do. And it was simply, there's a great TV in Germany, you should do it. You get on a plane and do it. So there were, from that kind of the days of the guru-like management, say they had at Motown, it wasn't like that for me at all, and it never has been.
What do you mean with the management at the Motown? Did they have such a rough management? Well,
they had charm schools, and they taught. They had a lot more. They had a lot more. People like Diana and the Supremes, and those artists were all groomed meticulously and told what to wear and what to do and how to act and stuff. I mean, those are the beginning days of being a pop star. In fact, I think it's probably gone back to that a little bit more now. I hear these charm schools are back in action, and they're helping young kids how to project themselves and what to do and say. I don't know if it's just a rumour, but I think it's far more interesting to allow an artist to develop on their own and be themselves, and it's far more interesting. Sure. I mean, my little boy Harry, he's 12. He plays a really cool electric guitar, and in fact, he played a solo on my new album, and he's far more handsome than Brad Pitt, and. If he told me he wanted to be a rock god, I would fall on my knees and thank God, because I can't imagine anything better than having a rock god son. And then my daughter, she sings really nicely and plays piano. She's a natural, and I would feel the same for her too.
And you can give a lot of advice to them.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I didn't realise how much advice I had to give until I ended up working here in Vienna with Tomorrow's Heroes, a show with the young artists about to make their way into the music world. And I realised actually I did have quite a lot of, I think, quite useful advice to pass on. You don't realise how much you pick up after all these years, but I think I was quite helpful. Well, I like something you can get your hands on. I mean, I used to love vinyl. I think I still probably, that would be my favoured mode of buying music. I used to love all the artwork and the stories and the notes and the sleeves and the messages. I miss that. These CD things, and they always, they never really last very long. They were just such I think they were a bit of a con. Everyone sort of said they were, so strong and indestructible, and they weren't like that at all. Downloading music now, I love that. I love that you can just download something, go on and find on iTunes what you want, and then click a button, and all of a sudden it's there. I think that's a close second to vinyl.
Mm-hmm. But you never download it illegally.
Pardon?
Do you never download it illegally from the net?
No, I haven't. I always buy it. I've always done that. Yeah. Actually, if I'm honest with you, I don't know how to do it illegally anyway. Too old to know how to do it illegally.
Maybe then your son tell you.
Yeah, but I'll have to ask my son. Well, when I got married in 1996, I was 36 and I'd been in the music industry for 16 years virtually, and I was really ready for a break. It had been a constant circle of writing, recording, promoting, bit of live music, writing, promoting, and so it went on and on and on. And for several, many years it was just the best thing in the world to do, and that's all I wanted. But when I met my husband, I knew that things would have to change because we wanted to have children. And then, so I just decided to stop. And it was such a liberating thing to do. I was frankly quite bored of being Kim Wilde, and I think, to be fair, I think the public were pretty bored of me as well. They'd seen me hanging around for ages, like an old book, and it's like, well, it was time to stop, and it was a really good thing. It was like the best thing I did, and I got into horticulture and went back to school, went back to study plants, and these are things that I'd always loved but never had enough time to find out about. The motivation to find out about how to work with plants and design was because I wanted to make a garden for the children to grow up in. And then I ended up becoming the most busiest person in the world. I wanted to settle down a bit, have some children, smell the roses, just take it easy. It didn't happen at all. I got married and it was like getting on one of the scariest fairground rides you ever got on. There's nothing more exhausting than having 2 children and going back into education, and then suddenly finding yourself in gardens, digging holes and picking up heavy trees and planting them, and I was exhausted. And so when I got asked to get back in the music industry, I thought, oh yes, please, I need a break. I've never enjoyed it so much. The last 10 years of my career have been fantastic. They've been very live orientated. I've spent a lot of time on stage. That is where a lot of artists now, obviously they make money there too. That's not a small consideration, but it's actually where you can have a hell of a lot of fun. And I've been really enjoying it. I'm about to go on tour again next month in February, March, and I can't wait.
For what do you receive now this gold medal in the end?
Oh, sorry, I didn't even answer that question.
No, but it was great.
I got the gold medal for for creating a little garden. It wasn't even as big as this room, and it was based on my great love of an area in the north of England called Cumbria, the Lake District, which I know very well, and it was my tribute to that garden. So it was from the RHS, the Royal Horticultural Society, gave me this gold medal, and they're a bit like Oscars. I mean, they're incredibly special and a little bit rare, and it was probably one of the best gold medals I ever got given. So it still makes me grin to think about it, especially because no one thought I could do it. You know, they kind of had me put in a box. You know, I'm Kim Wilde, and that's the Kim Wilde box. And then Kim Wilde, she jumped out the box, and then she made a gold medal winning garden, and that made me feel really happy.
Better than any music prizes?
Well, at the time I thought that, but now that I've got back into music, the passion for it has come back, all the fun's come back into the music. The fun that I thought I had lost has come back. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, gold could make me happy again. But I'm not greedy, you know, I've really had more than my fair share of all that stuff. Nick, are you there, love?
Yeah.
Was it Denmark or was it Finland, dear?
You were Denmark.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, I thought that. I knew that. I know that. I knew that.
Yeah.
Right. So, my first gig was in Denmark in a place called Slagelse, and I had this fantastic band, and which my brother was in and still is, Ricky Wilde. And I remember there was a lot of strobe lighting, a lot of people with cameras, a lot of thick with atmosphere. We rehearsed a set that was about an hour and 30, and we did it all in an hour because we played it all so fast and everyone was so overexcited. It was brilliant. I remember waking up the next day, going down to the gig, and it was trashed. All the kids had trashed the gardens outside. There was cameras and flash bulbs, and it looked like a bomb had hit it. There was a lot of hysteria and a lot of attention and a lot of pressure. But I've enjoyed live work so much more in the last 10 years than I did back then. I don't have particularly happy memories of being a performer in the early part of my career. It wasn't for me it wasn't a big part of my career. I was the video queen, you know. I spent a lot of time pouting and did it very well. But live music wasn't really something I was known for. And in fact, strangely enough, my live work has come of age at this later age, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Was there any particular reason why you don't like to play live in the beginning, or was it too much pressure maybe? Or?
I think there was so much pressure, and maybe too much. You know, maybe it was too much, and maybe I just wasn't getting enough experience. And there was so much emphasis on getting on planes and doing TV and interviews and photo shoots and everything but music. And for several years that was absolutely fine. You know, I was 20 years old. It was great to jump on a plane and end up in Paris and Sydney and Japan, and and wear beautiful clothes, and all of that was enough for quite some time. And the live scene wasn't particularly potent at that time, unless you were a rock band. I felt kind of happier in a safer world in a way. There's something less that you can't control so much the live experience, and there was so much about my career that was very controlled. The live experience I find a bit scary, but whereas now it's different. You know, the live situation, it still has that element of not being able to control it, but I love that now, where it doesn't scare me anymore. But that's one of the great things about getting older. Pleasure. Cheers.